Hi everyone, in this video I want to show you a game played between Grandmaster Deac Bogdan Daniel from Romania and Grandmaster Berkes Ferenc from Hungary, having an elo greater than Bogdan. This game was played in FIDE Grand Swiss round 4, and this is one of the strongest open tournaments, and the winner is allowed to participate in the candidate tournament. It was a very interesting game because Bogdan opted to enter the endgame very early and showed us again his superiority in this phase of the game. It was a perfect game, and even the computer showed 0 mistakes and 0 inaccuracies. It's very impressive how accurate Bogdan can play. I've seen this accuracy only at the world champion Magnus Carlsen. Let's see the game. Bogdan started with d4, d5, c4, e6. We have the queen's gambit decline, knight to c3, bishop to e7, knight to f3, knight to f6, g3, and this is one of Bogdan's favorite lines where he likes to fianchetto his bishop. There are other games played by Bogdan in this position that I've analyzed on my channel. Black continued with castle, bishop to g2, and black released the central tension and he took on c4, knight to e5, intending to take the pawn with the knight, and the bishop diagonal is opened. In this position 3 moves have been played: knight to c6, c5, and queen to d6, intending to defend b7 pawn with queen to a6. In the game c5 was played, and the resulting lines lead to the endgame. After c5, d takes on c5, queens are exchanged, knight takes on d1, and we have an endgame position. And in this phase of the game we need a plan, and here the plan is related to the pawn structure. In an endgame we need to attack opponent weaknesses, which are the backward pawns, advanced pawns, and isolated pawns. Next question is how to attack these weaknesses. We have 3 options: 1, to fix them; 2, do not exchange them; and third thing is to try to weaken them by provoke them to move. Regarding our opponent, we need to restrict his counterplay, and for this we can limit the activity of his pieces and exchange his active pieces. Another important thing that we need to do in an endgame is to use the principle of 2 weaknesses. For example, if our opponent has 4 weaknesses and 4 pieces to defend them, all we need to do is to exchange 1 or 2 pieces, and our opponent will remain with 4 weaknesses and 2 pieces to defend. This is a very good plan to follow, and another idea used by strong players like Carlsen is to annoy his opponent by making many moves and small threats, and at some point your opponent will get tired and make mistakes. This is a very powerful idea. Let's see the game continuation and try to see how Bogdan is playing the endgame. Black took on c5, short castle, knight to c6, and this move allows Bogdan to give his bishop pair in order to create some weaknesses on the queen side, which is the right thing to do in an endgame. He did not take with the knight because of 2 possible reasons. 1, he wanted to imbalance the position, and 2, the knight is a tricky piece in an endgame. The knight has his advantages and disadvantages. The knight's advantage consists in his tactical possibilities. He can attack opponent weak pawns, make forks, he can restrict an opponent king. The knight weaknesses in an endgame is that he can play only on one side, and he struggles with side pawns. As we can see in this position, black has an isolated pawn on a7 and 2 double pawns on the c file. White continue with bishop to e3, proposing the bishop exchange. Black went back, and the players followed the game played between Matlakov and Leko in Germany 2016, and that game ended in a draw. In this position Matlakov played knight takes on c4, but Bogdan decided to deviate from that game and took with the bishop on b6. The drawback of this move is that black pawn structure is fixed and black has the a file for his rook. Usually releasing the tension is good only if it helps us to get an advantage. White can take on c4, but better is to develop the last minor piece and connect the rooks, so he played knight to c3. And if black will try to defend this pawn, white knights will manage to stop them. After knight takes on c6, bishop to b7, knight to b4, knight to d5, knight b takes on d5, bishop takes, knight takes on b5, rook f to b8, knight to c7, rook to a5, b3, c takes on b3, knight takes on d5, rook takes on d5, a takes on b3, and black cannot take due to the weakness of the last rank. So we see that white is pawn up. In the game, bishop to d7 was played, connecting the rooks, and white continued with the most forcing move, rook f to d1, attacking the bishop, not allowing black to play b5 and defend this pawn. Black defended the bishop with rook f to d8, knight takes on c4, recovering the material, attacking b6, and black push b5, attacking the knight, and c5 square is weak and white needs to place a knight here. White continue with knight to d6, king to f8, knight to b7, rook d to b8, and knight to c5, attacking the bishop, and black place the bishop back. What should white do next? White's plan is to attack black weak pawns or push his best pawns. Black has a backward pawn on c6 and the possibility of creating a pass pawn on the a file. In the endgame, we need to collect stable advantages, which are opponent weaknesses, pass pawns, and material advantage. We also need to stretch opponent defense by using the principle of two weaknesses, and for this we need to create more weaknesses and exchange some pieces. The only active piece that black has in the game is the knight, so white needs to restrict it or exchange it, and for this white continue with f3, controlling e4 and the g4 squares. Also f2 square is available for the king to go. Black continue with king to e7, king to f2, knight to d5. If white takes on d5, he will fix black pawn structure, and the isolated pawn from b5 will be well protected by the bishop and the rook. So Bogdan did not want to exchange knights, and he played knight 3 to e4, and this active knight from d5 needs to be kicked away with e4, and for this he needs to move this knight. Black continue with h6, knight to d3, the other knight will go to c5, and the knight from d3 will go to b4, pressuring this pawn. Black continue with knight to b6, rook d to c1, rook to c8. This backward pawn is well defended for the moment. Rook to c2, f6, good move, opening the bishop diagonal. Knight e to c5. White will meet bishop to g6 with e4. Black continue with e5, a3, blocking the a file, and the rook from a1 can go, for example, to c1, pressuring this pawn. Black continue with bishop to g6, e4, bishop to e8, h4, locking the king side, rook to d8, placing the rook on the open file, but d6 pawn is defended only once now. White continue with b3, limiting the knight activity, but b3 pawn becomes a target for black in the future with bishop to f7. Rook to d4, king to e3, rook d to d8 back. Black is going back, he doesn't have a concrete plan. Knight to b4, pressuring c6. Again, rook to d4, but in this moment black threatens to take the knight, which is pinned, winning the rook. So white prevented this and played knight c to d3, rook to d6, and Bogdan can push f4. The part that attacks can push pawns in an endgame. In the game, instead, he continued with rook to c3, rook to a7, black is waiting, rook to c2, white is waiting as well, king to d8, knight to c5. White pieces are on the most active squares, so he needs to bring more attackers, so he needs to push f4. Black continued with king to e7. Another way was to improve the bishop activity and place it on f7. And finally, white push f4. White is going for the kill. E takes, g takes on f4. The g file is opened and white has the new target, the backward pawn from g7. And this can be attacked with the knight on e6 and with the rook on g2. We need to keep in mind that every time we have a change in material or pawn structure, we need to update our plan. Black continue with rook to d8, moving back is not good except there is a threat. It seems that black doesn't know what to do and he's daring white to show him his cards. When you don't know what to do, you need to look at your pieces and see what piece is not doing anything. In this position, black light square bishop is not doing anything, so this piece needs to be improved. White continue with f5, fixing black weak pawns from the king side, and e6 square will be occupied by this knight. King to f7, knight to e6. Usually if you manage to place a knight on the 6th rank, you have a big advantage. The knight looks at g7 pawn. Black continue with rook d to a8, attacking for a second time a3 pawn, but this move leaves c6 pawn unprotected and white takes it. Rook takes on a3, rook takes on a3, rook takes on a3, attacking the pawn, and knight c to d4, defending the pawn, and prepares rook to c7, check, winning g7 pawn. So black had to defend against this threat, but white exchanged rooks, knight takes on c7, but this pawn from b5 is lost. After this move, black continue with bishop to d7, knight d takes on b5, and here white can start implementing the second correct plan in an endgame, the one to push his best pawns every time his opponent lets him. Black continue with g5, white took, and in this moment black has a pass pawn on the g file, but this is not dangerous because white king is close to him. White needs to stretch black defense, and for this he needs to exchange some pieces. So he continue with knight to d6 check, king to e7, knight to c4, black took, king to d6, knight to d5, attacking the pawn, king to e5, defending, and we notice that if white knight will reach g4, the pawn from f6 will be lost, and this can be achieved via knight to e7, knight to g8, knight to h6, and knight to g4. White spotted this and started this maneuver, knight to e7, king to d6, knight to g8, king to e5, knight to h6. So he went back to d6, but this allows white king to go forward. Black tried bishop to a4. Better was to defend the pawn with the king, but this allows white to go further. White continue with knight to g8, g4. White king will reach this pawn and take it. Knight takes on f6, g3, e5 check, king to c6, king to e3, bishop to c2, attacking at f5, and after knight to d5, black resigned. He cannot take on f5 due to knight to e7, forking the king and the bishop. A possible continuation would be g2, king to f2, bishop to b3, king takes on g2, bishop takes on g4, knight to e3, bishop to f7, king to c5, knight to g4, king to d5, king to f4, king to c5, e6, bishop to e8, f6, bishop to g6, f7, bishop takes, pawn takes, and we can stop here because white will promote. In this tournament, Bogdan managed to beat Ruslan Kasimdzhanov, a former FIDE World Champion between 2004 and 2005, and Ruslan is the current coach of Fabiano Caruana. Also, Bogdan managed to win against Sam Shankland, a 2700 player, which is one of Magnus Carlsen's seconds. And at the end of the tournament, Bogdan managed to win 60 elo points, and he was on place 45, taking into consideration that he started at place 102. So a very good performance by Bogdan in this tournament. So this was the game between Grandmaster Deac Bogdan Daniel and Grandmaster Berkes Ferenc. If you found this video useful, click on the like button, share this video, watch other games from my channel, and leave some comments and suggestions in the comment section. See you next time. Bye.